All right. Hello, my name is Kate Bodiger. I am the Executive Director at Reach for Resources. We are here with Senator Anderson from District 29, and we're here to talk about demystifying the legislative visit. And so we'll do a quick round of introductions. So go ahead, Senator Anderson.
Well, good morning. I'm Senator Bruce Anderson. I serve in Senate District 29, which is basically Wright County. I have a little bit of Hennepin County, Rockford, which goes up to Greenfield. But for the most part, it covers all three corners. I guess the northern section goes up to Sherburne County, western section goes over to Stearns and Meeker, and my southern part of the district goes down to McLeod and Carver County. So it's a big territory. It's supposedly each Senate district is to have about 85 to 86,000 constituents. County itself has now increased. I think there are over 136,000 people that live here in Wright County. So as we go into the redistricting year, which is coming up in 21 and 22, my legislative or Senate district will probably get smaller. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out. It's always a mystifying thing when we get into redistricting, and for the last many decades, it has gone to the Supreme Court of the state of Minnesota to decide how the lines are going to be drawn. I've been in Wright County since 1976 when I moved here with my first wife, who recently passed in 2006 from cancer, and we had 5 children. My oldest is an adopted Korean daughter who is serving in the U.S. Air Force of 25 years now, just gone over that. And my 4 other children live in close proximity. And 2 of my children are twin daughters. One has cerebral palsy, so I understand what Reach for Resources and others who are dealing with people who have disabilities are working with. So my father and mother are still living. They're 92 and 96. They live in my hometown of East Bethel, which is in Anoka County, and they're getting along well in their own home, and I'm surprised, but that's great. I like to see that happen. But I sit on committees of the public safety, and I also sit on the Veterans Committee, which I am the chair until the January 1st, which I've given the chairmanship over to Senator Lang to be the new chair for the next 2 years. I also sit on transportation and on local government, and then I have a small chairmanship with for the claims committee, and we basically take on claims that people have filed against the state of Minnesota for things that there's no other means by which to help resolve their concerns or their financial difficulties. So that's kind of a snippet of who I am.
Great. Thank you, Senator Anderson. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Emily.
Good morning. I'm Emily Orr. I'm the Director of Adaptive Recreation and Inclusion at Reach for Resources.
All right. Go ahead, Marcus.
Hello, my name is Marcus Skalman, and I'm an employment specialist with Reach for Resources, and we provide supported employment services to those with developmental disabilities.
Great, thank you. All right, so again, many individuals are nervous to meet with their elected officials, and we wanted to try to demystify the legislative visit by showing others what can be expected and how to prepare, since meeting with your senator, representative, or other elected official is one of the most effective ways that we can influence the legislative process. So Senator Anderson, can you tell us why it's vital to meet with you regarding important?
Well, the first thing I have to, let people know is that I'm elected by many, many people, and I am basically a servant of those people. And so I'm here at the public's desire for me to serve their needs, whatever capacity it may be, whether it's from a county standpoint or from a township or even cities who have needs. But there's also the big thing, I think, is the individual person who has a concern, such as Reach for Resources. There are people, many people that in my area that have group homes with people with disabilities that have special needs. And those people are always asking for help. And in some cases where we've tried to pass legislation in the years gone by, there's been glitches or holes in that legislation that need to be fixed and patched and brought together again. So we are always here to be listeners. I think the biggest thing is for me, as my grandfather told me, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. And when you get that in the right perspective and do a lot more listening than you do talking, you are a better person for wanting to help out and reach out to others around you. So I think that's a big thing that I've learned since I was a kid, that and just sit in the corner and be quiet. I think that's what they always told us as kids, so just keep your mouth shut. But I find that it's very applicable for adults too, that other people have concerns and needs. And that's what we're here for, is to help meet the needs and help to patch legislation or make legislation better or improve legislation. Maybe we need to go in a different direction to help in a certain area to meet that person's need or that group's need, which could be a group that represents the whole state of Minnesota. And in that area, we try to be of assistance and help and go forward with the necessary words and language that would make it happen. And hopefully we get the consent of the legislature and the House of Representatives, and then the governor to go along with that. And so we're basically your servants, and we want to make it available. We want to be available to you. We will be willing to come out to the area to talk with you, to meet with you, meet you halfway, or go all the way. Come into the Capitol. We'll meet you in the Capitol and sit down and have a cup of coffee or a bottle of water or whatever, and just talk over the things that you're concerned about. And if we don't have the answers at that time, we'll get some people who do work in the areas of whether it's special needs or agriculture or healthcare, whatever, excuse me, whatever the need may be. I'm getting frog here in my throat, but we're there to help and meet all the needs of everyone not only in our district, but across the state.
All right, wonderful. So many individuals can be intimidated by talking to their senator, representative, or other elected official. What can you tell them to put them at ease?
Well, I like to think that they would call my office, or if they find my telephone number in the local paper or online, that they would give me a call or give me a text or even just send me an email to at least introduce themselves and let me know what their concerns are. I then want to hopefully have an opportunity to talk with them either on the phone, or if they would prefer just to come in and talk, I have no problems with that, or I'll come out to their location, whether it's in Buffalo or St. Michael or in Robbinsdale, wherever, that we want to come down and sit and just chat with one another. I'm just a regular person like everybody else, and I just need to know who you are. You need to know who I am and how I can help you. And because you're reaching out to me, I want to reach out back and help not only you, but your people that you're representing or you have concerns about, whether it's in your family or people that's extended family. We want to be available to you. So I just want to make it as easy as possible. And if there's concerns about that, I'd love to just sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk it over. Let's go to Perkins or go to Dunn Brothers. I don't know. I guess Dunn Brothers now, you can't go through. You have to have a drive-through. But we could meet in the parking lot if we had to.
Thanks, Senator. So once a meeting is scheduled with you, how can constituents get the most out of their meeting?
Well, I think the best thing for them is to come with some questions that they have and just give us an outline, maybe bullet statements of the things that are concerning to them that we can dig deeper into as we get involved with the discussion of these particular areas that they have concerns about. A nice thing to have is maybe a laid out template where it's on paper. You can just slide it over to me or just hand it to me and we can take a look at it. And maybe it's necessary that in the preliminary getting together, you talk about something of a legal nature. Maybe at that point, I can, before we even get together, I can bring in some legal people or people that work in the field of a legal background, and we can sit down and look at the concern, whatever those statements are, that and dig into it deeper so that we can say, well, we might go in a direction that might not be very well taken, and we might have to go in a different direction. So just having those things laid out on a piece of paper or documented that, or you know it very well, you can just give it to me. I'll take notes as I listen to you, because I like to make sure that I've got it down, and I hopefully will feed back to you to say, is this correct the way you said it to me, and what to get across. Hopefully, let's just make it easy and drop in some information that you have, and then any extracurricular, if you have some extra people that maybe could add to, or examples. The big thing is a story of something that goes with the concerns that you have. Those stories and those examples make a big difference, and help us to say, you know, it's just not you talking about this. It's about this group over here. It's about these people over here. And it maybe cuts across lines where it goes into Wisconsin or south of North Dakota. Who knows? It may be a nationwide type of situation where if we started here in Minnesota, it could catapult or snowball into a bigger thing for a nationwide, whereby we could get our congressmen and our U.S. senators involved with this particular issue and those issues that you have concerns about.
Yeah, great. The people behind the problems. That's
Yeah.
great. So sometimes you'll be at the Capitol and a meeting will get canceled. So if that happens, what should we do?
Well, I don't give up, because there's a lot of times that people go, oh, well, they'll never talk to me. I've had several people who've called me and left messages at my Capitol Exchange, and my legislative assistants will give me an idea of who's called, and I talk to them. I look at that concern, and then I usually will give them a call back if it's something that I can deal with. Otherwise, I'll try and I have a situation where I sit on the transportation committee, but because of the way the bureaucracy has done with license plates and getting your certificates and titles and things like this year for your vehicles, it's been very difficult for some people. I had a gentleman here in Buffalo who had put in for a can't even think of the name anymore, a license plate, but it was actually a vintage license plate for his truck. He's a big game hunter, and he wanted to make his license plate look a little different than the normal. So when he got his new truck in January of this year, he immediately put in for a vintage license plate. He paid for it back in January of this year, and it hasn't been until just last week that he got notice that they were now working on his license plate. And because he called me back in August. I mean, he says, how long does it take to make a license plate? I mean, it's crazy. And he says, if they can't make it, send my money back and I'll try and do something different. But he said, my license plate expires now the end of November. And so they told him last week that his license plate would be coming, and that they had sent his tabs for his old license plate, and they just said, hang on to that, and hopefully we'll cover the concern. But he was heading for Wyoming for a big elk game hunt, and the first week of December, and he didn't know if he'd have his license. But it's those kind of things where you need to get involved with people and be available to them. And he was very persistent, and I think that's the key to this. If you have a concern or an issue, that if we don't get back to you within a matter of a week or 10 days, call us back, email us, somehow continue to, or if not me, your state representative, who I have two representatives, both Representative Marion O'Neill and Representative Joe McDonald. And if you know of the representatives in your area and we haven't contacted you back, contact those representatives. I get representatives that call me. One called me yesterday saying, did you know about this, this, and this? And this happened back in the 90s. And so I went back to an issue yesterday with this gentleman who's a state representative from Hanover. He didn't represent that area when we had the issue back then, but it came back up again, and very persistent and wanting to make sure that we got on top of this. So I really encourage people to continue to reach out, make sure that people know about this. And even if we don't get back, hopefully you'll contact somebody that will get back and work with you on this issue.
That's awesome. That's a good transition to my next question, which is, besides a thank you letter, is there anything else we should do to follow up with you after a meeting?
Well, candy and cookies are always good.
All right.
No, I'm just kidding. Although, when I first got in the legislature, there was a group of homeschoolers who were very concerned about the legislation that was coming to the Capitol that was going to prevent women and their families from being able to homeschool their children. And it was amazing that for almost 3 months, at least once a week, there was a plate of cookies that had been slid under my door. It's all wrapped up in on a paper plate and everything. And cookies were very, very well. Gee, I was sharing them with all my colleagues, and they were going, "Where did you get that from?" Well, it was people that were sitting on the education committee, and they were concerned that this legislation. So I'm just being a little facetious here, but the fact is that it's amazing that you remember those things, and they bring back memories of how important this legislation was to them, that they were so thankful that we were able to keep the legislation from hurting them in their dealing with their homeschooling concerns. And it's the same way with people with disabilities and agricultural concerns or healthcare concerns or veterans concerns. Just a thank you note is great, a little card. Whatever is maybe a call back and just say thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. We really think that it's part of our job, but it's also an appreciative thing to see that people do care and want to go out of their way to make an effort to show their appreciation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello. Now, I know you talked a little bit about the importance of bringing a story to you to kind of illustrate some of the concerns that an individual might have. Do you have any other tips for a successful legislative visit?
Well, I would believe that besides a story, that the more individuals that are connected with this particular legislation, I know that I've had individuals, Kate Bodigers, come on her own, but I know that in other areas that sometimes they'll bring extra people to come along with that. So not only do you have that opportunity to share or talk with the person that's concerned with the legislation, that is kind of the liaison for the organization, such as Reach for Resources, but you then have people like the vice president or people from the group homes or from individuals that are out there that are working to deal with people with special needs, to bring them along. And we have rooms available there at the State Senate building to put a group of 10, 15 people in, or if we need to get bigger, we can go as high as 30 or 40 people. So I think the more backup, and yes, it's hard to get everybody from all four corners of the state, but it is very impressive to see that when you bring somebody from, say, Bemidji, or from Crookston, or from Ada, or from southern Minnesota, Wells, Minnesota, where, small towns where you would think, well, that must not affect them, but they have people, they have similar concerns, and they might go to Marshall, or they might go to Caledonia, or up to East Grand Forks, wherever they go. But if to show up at a Capitol, it gives us an impression that this is important to them, even though they're in maybe a small town of 50 or 150 or 15,000. It shows that they have a concern, and that they are probably talking not only for themselves, but for many, many more. Like we used to say in the Navy when I was in the military, and I don't mean this to be derogatory or demeaning, but if you see one cockroach, you'll see probably 40 to 50 more cockroaches. So it's, and I don't mean that to be in cast a spell on this, but the fact is that the more people that you see, the more that there's a concern for the issue, and the more that can come in. And they might be concerned that they're going to come to, oh, I'm coming to the Capitol, I got to see my senator or my legislator. It's just the fact that they show up and are part of the group and part of the camaraderie of this issue is a big telling thing. And then what likely will happen if we get a group, we might get more than just me meeting with that group. It might be a group of senators or a group of state legislators bringing the representatives and the senators together to speak to the whole group at one time. And if we can coordinate that, that would be great.
Awesome. Now, I know you touched a little bit on this topic as well, but for the many people who have never gone to a meeting with a state legislator before, could you please explain what a meeting might look like? Anything else to add to that?
Well, I guess the meeting would start out similar to what Kate introduced us this morning to each one of us, and basically it'll be we'll find a room or my office, excuse me, and just meet one another, talk with one another, and maybe what I like to do is just as we get introduced to ask them, the individuals, so what is it about this issue that affects you? Or is there somebody in your family that it affects? Or is there somebody as a friend or a person in your community, your next door neighbor? Just to get kind of an understanding of where each individual that comes there. We don't need to continue a conversation, but just to get hopefully a back and forth between us so we understand everybody. And I will soon forget people's names. I sometimes have to go back and just point to each person and say, your name was it Kate, or was it John, or was it Bill, or was that Susie, or was it Emily? You know, and just I try to make this as friendly as possible and try to make it very open, and hopefully these people feel warm after talking, and warm after talking with other senators if we come together, and that we get an understanding of where each individual's coming from. And hopefully if we can, we have a little bit of cookies and coffee and maybe some water to go along with it.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. So the last question is very similar. So do you have any last remarks on how you could help put individuals at ease about meeting with their elected officials?
Oh, I guess what would be helpful if they are truly interested, that they would do some homework by going either online or going to the library. I know not many people go to libraries anymore, but my wife still does because she likes to read books, and so she's reading 3 or 4 books and getting 3 or 4 books more. But going to the library or finding a way to find out about that legislator, that senator, and learning more about them and their background, and just having a little bit of knowledge of who you're going to be meeting with. You know, I come from a farm background. I'm a farmer. I like to work with my hands. I like to be out in the open. I don't like being cooped up like we are now. And it's those kind of things that individuals, if they find out who the individual is, they maybe feel more comfortable. They then understand they can plug in. I'm from a military background. I have a person in my life who has been disabled. I have, from my first marriage, my first wife had 2 brothers that had schizophrenia. Her mother had schizophrenia. So finding out something about the legislator hopefully connects with you as an individual that wants to come and meet with that senator or that representative. So you know, oh, your wife passed away from cancer, or yeah, I had my mom and dad had cancer. So just to connect, it gives them hopefully it puts an ease to their heart and their soul as far as knowing who that person is, that they're regular people, that they have been elected by their constituents to represent them, because they're paying my salary, even though maybe it's only $1 a day. It's still you're paying to have me represent you at the Capitol, and you deserve to come and meet with me as much as possible if you want. And so as much as you can learn about your legislator, I don't get the opportunity to necessarily learn about who Kate Bodiger is or who Emily is, but hopefully as we communicate, and maybe there's a John or a Jim or a Jack or Susie, whoever it might be, maybe I get to know them a little bit better as we come together and meet, and we have a little bit of conversation and before we actually get into the issue. So hopefully we put things to ease and make things a very comfortable and a nice opportunity of visiting.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Senator Anderson, for the time that you took for us today to do this video. And also just thank you for your support for individuals with disabilities and mental health conditions over the years. We greatly appreciate your support and constituency as well.
Glad to be that, and glad to continue to work for you as long as God gives me breath.
Thank you so much for meeting with us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Senator Anderson. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye-bye.